Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, as you know by now, I'm a sucker for any tech-related or entrepreneurial story. And that's because I think we all learn so much from listening to each other and sharing our stories and sharing our experiences and learning from them. Because why do you need to go out there and make a load of mistakes if you can learn from somebody else and prevent yourself from having to go through the same things? Now today I'm going to be talking to the CEO of ideaMachine Studio. His name is Steve Day, and Steve started his company in the back of a Brooklyn church and now has over 300 employees and creates unbelievable animated campaigns for companies like ESPN, Xbox and Dove, and that's just to name a few. But although he's enjoying incredible success now, Steve had to learn to overcome hardships along the way, and I felt compelled to find out more about his story and what got him to where he is today. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Brooklyn so we can speak with Steve Day, who'll share his and ideaMachine Studio's story of building a one-of-a-kind animation studio. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Neil. So I'm Steve Day. I run whiteboardanimation.com and ideamachinestudio.com. We're an animation studio, and we pioneered whiteboard animation. We also make explainer videos, and we've done it for nearly a decade.
Now, there's so much more to your story to that, but so we'll get there in a moment. But before we do, can you just set the scene and tell the listeners about your one-of-a-kind animation studio, and also what makes you guys unique and different from everything else out there?
Well, we pioneered a genre with whiteboard animation. That's pretty popular. You may have seen it. A lot of people have seen it around the world. So that makes us unique. But really the heart of our business is talent and process. We sell talent. People think we sell videos or that we're a software company, but we're neither of those things. We're a studio full of animators and talent. And we have many processes that guide our clients through the animation process. For example, we're on the first page of Google for how much does an animation cost? And of course, on the first page of Google for whiteboard animation cost.
Now, I love sharing tech startup stories on this show, and I believe you started your company in the back of a Brooklyn church. I mean, that's incredibly cool on its own.
That's right.
So can I take you back in time to where all that began and ask you to set the scene again, but of where your journey began in the back of that church in Brooklyn?
Yeah, so I was... So when it comes to technology, I was a part of a studio before the one I run now. That was a motion capture studio. And that's where you put on a suit and you have ping pong balls and you move a character in a digital space. It's for 3D animation. And we were making 3D educational content for another company. So I needed a large space that I could put a motion capture system in. And New York City's real estate prices are ridiculous. So I was just desperate, and I asked pastor of my church, I said, hey, pastor, can we move the chairs during the week when you're not in service, and can we motion capture here? And to my surprise, he said yes. But the project I was working on, it came to a close, and I was out of a job. And we created all the content that we needed to create. And just before that came to an end, I'd started motioncapturenewyorkcity.com, and you can look that up as well. And it still exists. So that was from 2006 to 2010. And we were contacted when all the work came to a close and my whole team was out of a job and I was out of a job. We were contacted by a company that said, hey, have you seen these TED Talk whiteboard animations? Can you make one of these? So I asked my team, I said, hey, can we make this? We're all out of a job. And they all looked at it. They all said, no, that's impossible. I said, well, I need to pay my rent and I need to eat. And my daughter needs to eat, so I'm going to do this. And they all said, best of luck, and they walked out. And so it was me and my MacBook. My father gave me a flip camera as a stocking stuffer for Christmas, and I screwed it onto a pole, and I just started drawing on this whiteboard. And to my surprise, the company accepted us. And for the next 3 years, we would work with that company. We would make about 16 animations with them. So that was the beginning of whiteboard animation, which is a 2D animation genre but we still had the motion capture, which is also 3D. And so now that's everything that we do is the mix of all of that.
What a fantastic story. And I think it's so important to share things like that, because I think we, especially now, we often only hear about success stories or the end result, and then other people judge you by that end result. But very often it's the challenges and overcoming hardships along the way. That's what provides the real value, especially to anyone listening, following in your footsteps. So what kind of obstacles have you had to overcome in those years?
Yeah, so I mean, you bring up a great point, necessity is the mother of invention. Yeah. And you see it time and time again, over and over. If you look at like the Facebook movie that came out, you see the kind of pressure that Zuckerberg was under in order to birth what is now Facebook. And we were under extreme pressure. I was sitting in that church for 3 months, literally praying for a job when the kinds of work that came to us. My wife said, "Hang it up. It's over. You're not making any money." So, of course, one of the biggest obstacles with any new business is cash flow. Do you go to the bank? Do you take out a loan? Do you just bite your nails and hope that the next job is going to come through? And we were on the bite your nails end. I absolutely refused to take out any loan. I wanted to be all blood, sweat, and tears. So that was difficult. And trying to anticipate and forecast when the next job might come through. And of course, we had no idea for much of the time. So I built everything to scale. It's very important that a business is built to scale, that when a big job comes through, you can blow up, you can do that job, but then when the job is done, you can also quickly downsize so you don't have all these expenses to pay. So that was part of the deal. Every artist I brought in through the door, I said, "Hey, I can give you 3 weeks of work. I hope I can give you more work, but I really have no idea if we're going to get another job." And artists live on the edge, and so many of them were like, "Fine, that's okay." Of course, I wasn't hiring the sexiest artists out there. They didn't have the most amazing reels, but I knew many of them were passionate, and I believed in their talent. And so there was sort of a family atmosphere that was built, that we all trusted each other and believed in each other, so that, when those jobs came through, we all felt like we were in it together. So I guess, another big obstacle to overcome is trust. Is you have to underpromise and overdeliver to people. You have to say, you can't promise them the moon. You can't lie to people. You actually have to kind of tell them something that's slightly worse than what they'll experience in order for them to really, really hang on with you.
Excellent. Now, after overcoming those challenges, those obstacles, and years of hard work, you've gone on to direct for the United Nations, Sesame Street, ESPN, ESPY Awards, Bud Light Superbowl ads, and even the Elmo Xbox game. I mean, it's quite an eclectic mix there, but can you share some of those success stories?
Yeah, we've done all kinds of just crazy things. I'll talk about Elmo. Yeah. Everybody knows Elmo, right? So, we were contacted by Xbox. They said, "Can you motion capture a puppet?" And again, I asked my team, "Can we motion capture a puppet?" And they all said, "That's ridiculous." And I said, "Well, we have to do this job. We all need to get paid." And they're like, "Okay, fine." So we started practicing on some puppets, and we demonstrated that we could. So, Sesame Street said, "Okay, how are we going to do this?" And we said, "Well, we're going to have to shave Elmo naked." We're going to have to get rid of all his fur because they're getting in the way of all the markers and everything, and the system can't detect all of this. And they were like, "What? Elmo's going to be naked?" And we were like, "Well, nobody's going to see it. It's all 3D, And they're like, "Okay, fine." So they brought us a naked Elmo, and it was so sad. He was on the table, and we had to get safety pins, and we had to pin safety pins to his skin, and it was just so sad. We were pinning all these markers on him, but it worked. And we got to meet Kevin Clash, who plays Elmo. We were inside of a church. It was not sexy at all. And the executive producer of Sesame Street was so mad. And she pulled me out to the hallway, and she said, "I can't believe this. Do you mean to tell me that we are motion capturing Elmo inside of a church?" And she was just angry. I could see in her eyes. And I said, "Well, ma'am, it's the only way that we can be the renegade motion capture studio in New York City.
Yeah.
And she calmed down and she walked back inside. But I thought we were going to lose the job right there. I mean, she was really upset. And, people don't like change and they don't like risk. And so one thing I would say to all your listeners, Neil, is, if you're starting something new, if it's visionary, there's going to be scary moments. There's going to be moments filled with fear. And, if you're averse to risk, then don't go this route. But if you have faith and if you really believe that, something great can happen, then that's what's going to help you overcome is the faith to believe that you're going to get through those hard times.
Absolutely. But as a curious guy, I just cannot help but wonder how or who actually got the job of getting you a naked Elmo and how he went about it. I mean, there's a whole other story right there, right?
That's right.
Now, your tagline is killer videos made easy, but your clients appear to be quite an eclectic mix from Fortune 500, startups, tech, entertainment, finance, non-profit, and so many more. So what is your creative process and how do you help deliver to your very varied client list and exactly what they're looking for?
I was fortunate to get great advice from my parents and from some really wise business people who constantly said, much of business today is about process or process, as you would say, Neil. So I really focused in on process. And probably the best way to summarize it was every company that comes to us, we say, you're the experts in your industry. You're the expert in oncolytic immunotherapy, which is a big breakthrough pharmaceutical drug today. Or you're the experts in Marvel, because we've worked with the Marvel studio. You know Spider-Man. We don't know the 50 years of Spider-Man. But we are the experts in communication. And so that's what we focused on with our process was, how can we communicate what our clients want in a concise way. And that would be through the process of writing, the process of storyboarding, all the way through to the final animation.
So do you have any other use cases or case studies that you can share with us about how valuable video can actually be for businesses and some of the results that you've provided for people? Definitely.
Well, one way to look at our business is historically. So if you look back in history, there was the telephone book brought all kinds of business to people. Today, the telephone book is the internet, right? I mean, Google is the telephone book. People type in what they want, and then, voila. So part of what Google brings up first now is video. Video is dominating the internet. The internet is basically endless television. So, another thing is like a postcard. Postcards were huge in the 1990s. Well, sure, people are still sending postcards today, but they end up on the street, in the rubbish bin. We are the postcard of today. In a similar way is websites. People don't read websites. They just click play. That's all people do today is click play. They click play on your podcast, Neil.
Yeah.
Somebody might be listening to this while they're going for a jog or while they're in their car. The same is true for video. People, click play on video, and they know for a fact that they're going to get something concise, well thought out, and they're going to get to the point faster through audio and video than they would with a postcard or trying to, go through a website.
So although you have clients across multiple industries and of all sizes, I'm curious, do they all come to you with similar challenges? Do you find it doesn't matter what industry they're from or what their background or their size of their company, do they all have very similar challenges and that when they turn up at your door?
Yeah, well, it's similar to what I was just saying, that, we're the experts in communication, and many companies struggle with communication. Even Coca-Cola, it's one of the best at communicating in the world or ever. They realize the power of communication. But what's interesting today is the days of 30-second TV ads are over. People are skipping them. They're not paying attention to them. They just don't have the impact that they used to have. So not only that, like Coca-Cola, I believe their revenue has been relatively flat lately. They've achieved pretty much all that they can achieve. So what are the industries that are getting ahead? Well, the industries that are getting ahead are the industries listening to your podcast, Neil. And it's STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That's what's huge today. That's what's pioneering. That's what's really disrupting the market. But the problem with all those industries is if you talk to a scientist or to an engineer, you have no idea what they're talking about. Yeah. Right? They're talking about big data, they're talking about SEO, CRMs, analytics, and people don't understand those things. So we sit there and we listen to them, and we all just kind of shake our head, and then we summarize what it is that they're trying to say. So that's the main challenge, and that challenge is present in every industry.
Now, you have been on an amazing journey with some fantastic stories, but none of us are able to achieve success without a little help along the way. So is there any particular person that you're grateful towards who helped us get exactly where you are now?
That is a very sweet question. I appreciate you asking that question, Neil. Well, of course, I'm grateful to my wife. I mean, when I was sitting in a church for 3 months and had no work whatsoever, she took a risk, and she took that risk with me. So, of course, I'm highly indebted to her. I'm very in debt to my parents and my wife's parents. I'm fortunate to have been taught business from a very young age from my parents, and my wife's parents are They're PhDs in business, and they teach business at their school. So I had this incredible wisdom. And what's sad to me, and I think all your listeners would agree, that in schools today they don't teach about business because there's this thing called money. And it's kind of important. so I'm on a mission to get schools to teach about business today. I think your listeners would agree.
No, absolutely. I've got to ask as well, does your wife ever remind you about those days? Now you're doing really well for yourself. Does she keep you in check?
I'm glad she's not. She's not reminding me of that. She's not holding that over my head. It's like, well, we're doing so well. So I think she's completely forgotten about it. So,
I love it.
I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast. Bring it up.
Well, if you end up in an argument and she one day brings it up, you know that she has listened.
Oh, she's got me, and she's got me. I'll say, you're right. You win, honey.
So what's next for ideaMachine, and indeed yourself? Is there anything else you can share with us today?
Yeah, so, I'm often asked as a business owner, what is our 5-year plan? What's our objective? And I can quite literally say our objective is to conquer the world. We're number one on Google for both of our industries, and we're based out of New York, but we started a San Francisco office a little over a year now, and it's on pace to double in size. Texas is next, Washington, D.C. We're quite seriously looking at London because, as we discussed just before this podcast, I lived in Britain, and that's our objective, and we're fortunate that we're growing at a very rapid pace. A lot of our competitors are some of them are wonderful, and I really admire them, but we really have a leg up on them in terms of process and talent. So I'm pretty confident that we'll achieve our goal.
Well, before I do let you go, can I just ask that you remind the listeners of where they can find you guys online? You are the number one in Google, so I think that should give them a pretty good hint. But and also how they can contact a member of your team if they've got any questions after listening to our conversation today.
Yeah, so all they have to Google is how much does an animation cost? And Google considers us to be, one of the best at answering that question. You can also find us at whiteboardanimation.com. or ideamachinestudio.com, and we would love to hear from any of your listeners.
Now, I do still need to find out the process, or as you would say, process of finding a naked Elmo, but that's an episode. That's more about me and my spare time. But more than anything, you've got a fantastic story, and I've really enjoyed speaking with you today. So a big thank you for coming on, and hopefully we'll get to speak again in the near future.
Wonderful. Thank you, Neil.
Sometimes I'm fortunate just to hit it off instantly with some of my guests in the 20 minutes that we get to spend together. And Steve was one of those guests because I love his story, his ethos and what he stands for. And he's so upbeat and just seems to be an incredibly cool guy to be around. So I am hoping that I bump into him next time I'm in New York, and hopefully we can grab a coffee or an IPA beer or something like that. Because for me, the important message of today's episode is success without struggle just doesn't exist. And another great example of this is a picture you can find online of a 14-year-old Ed Sheeran busking in Ireland and nobody listening. Regardless if you like him or his music or not, that's irrelevant. I recommend that you check out his appearance on Desert Island Disc, because he also talks about his struggle of not fitting in and having to choose his own path and making something happen, even though for years and years everyone told him he was wasting his time. Because I'm not the biggest fan of Ed Sheeran, but I think that all too often people only look at other people's success and think that he or she is actually just lucky, or, oh, I wish I had that. And the problem is, we judge by their success right now. But we seldom see those years of struggle, 17-hour days with no reward and just wanting to give up. You know, having no money, clients, or even a studio in Steve's case there. And this is the point, we don't see those years. And there's no such thing as overnight success. And that's why I think shows like X Factor are wrong to promote that it does, because it's almost given a whole generation the impression that overnight success does exist, and it doesn't. But hey, enough of my impassioned rant. I want to pass the baton over to you, because this isn't me just standing on a soapbox. I want to hear your opinions, your thoughts, and your comments. So you can do that by tweeting me at Neil C. Hughes or emailing me at techblogwriter@outlook.com. Man, I really enjoyed today's episode, and I can't wait to do it all again tomorrow. So before I go, I just got to ask, are you going to join me again tomorrow? Good answer. I'll see you here tomorrow bright and early. But until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.